Hello everyone and welcome to the latest video of Vietnamese Bites, where we will be discussing the 10 biggest cultural differences between Vietnamese culture and Western culture. So join us for a drink as we get into it. With me always is my good friend Jules.
Xin chào.
Okay, let's get started. So first off, Jules, let's talk about Vietnamese food and specifically their way of eating and the restaurants here in Vietnam.
Yeah, first of all, their staples are rice and noodles. That is pretty much in 85% of their meals.
Yeah, rice and noodles are ubiquitous everywhere. You see Công Tam places, which are basically your kind of pick and mix rice places. I go to these almost every day. Cheap as chips to get a bowl of rice there. The problem is, I find whenever I go to these places, is the utensils. So instead of the knife and fork we're used to in the West, they have chopsticks and a spoon. And if you get like a pork chop or something with your rice, you know, how are you supposed to even eat that?
As a Westerner, we would want to cut it, right? But Vietnamese people will pick it up with their chopsticks and just gnaw at it from the bowl.
And I generally find myself just sort of hacking away with the side of the spoon and not really getting very far. So, but the reason why they have these utensils is because eating meals in Vietnam and indeed much of Asia is very much a communal thing, sort of family style. So you won't order 3 courses for me, 3 courses for Jules, but rather a whole bunch of courses for everyone there, and you have your own little bowl and you use your chopsticks to kind of pick and mix and just add things into your bowl with one.
And you eat with those chopsticks, and then you go back with those same chopsticks into the communal pots and basically contaminate them.
Contamination aside, you know, I do really like this style of eating because it does reflect the communal sort of culture of Asia. You know, it's very much a family unit. You know, everyone eats together, eats the same thing. You know, in the West, okay, you might steal something off someone's plate, but it's not very common. Whereas that kind of thing will happen all the time. And chopsticks are particularly good for that because they've got the range, so you can just grab stuff quite easily. Although I still find it pretty difficult to eat rice with chopsticks. Some people can do it, but
get the spoon. That's what the spoon's for.
Yeah.
It's a little more efficient too, financially, if anything. Not everyone has the same degree of hunger when they're coming in eating at a restaurant. So instead of getting this one same-size portion for every person, you're getting a lot of different portions. And if you're hungrier, you can have more. Not as hungry, don't have it. It usually ends up all being finished as well. Well, except for the rice and noodles, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, the rice and noodles is like always the first thing that comes out and most least expensive thing. In fact, it normally comes out before you even get the drinks, and
annoying.
And yeah, as opposed to Western culture where, you know, they'll bring out the meals at the same time, you'll eat your starters at the same time, etc. Anything just gets brought out just kind of randomly, you know, whenever it's cooked, it will come out. So you quite often find yourself with a big bowl of rice and like no beverage, nothing to eat it with, and then you're kind of hanging around waiting for the other dishes to come out. How about the noise levels, Jules?
Very noisy.
Yeah.
They like to have a good time, which is good. Very loud, even outside.
And a lot of these restaurants are outside because it just kind of makes sense, really. If you have an indoor restaurant, you have to have all this aircon going, and it's, you know, generally the indoor restaurants are the nhà hàng. Yeah, they're the expensive ones. Quite often there'll be Western food as well. The quán ăn are generally the outdoor ones, and here, yeah, they can get really noisy. If you want to get a waiter's attention, what do you say, Jules?
I say "amoy," but you may say "annoy."
No, I say
Am I?
yeah, and you say it really loud because that's what everyone does, and you need to get their attention over the din of everything else that's going on. And you've often got tables like next to you where everyone's going "Một, hai, ba, yo,"
Yeah.
which is the 1, 2, 3 cheers. quite often they'll say "what jam fun jam" as well, which means 100% or down in one.
And if you're confused whether you're in an indoor restaurant or an outdoor restaurant, just look at the floor, because in the outdoor restaurants, the floor will be completely filthy with empty beer cans, food,
Chicken bones.
wrappers. Right.
So in Vietnamese culture, the one who invites everyone out is typically the one who pays the meal. And I kind of realized this sort of the hard way when it was my birthday a couple of years ago. I thought, oh, I'll just invite everyone out from the company, from the centre where I work at.
Maybe they'll buy me dinner.
Yeah, exactly. and I did get like a few gifts from a lot of them. Usually they were diaries. I think that was the big one. I've got a whole stack of unused diaries now because I just do all that stuff online. So they will bring gifts, but you will be expected to pay generally. And if you invite 30 people out or something, you're looking at a pretty hefty restaurant bill there. So just bear in mind that when you invite people out.
On the flip side, if you are invited, that means you don't have to bring your wallet. So,
yeah. Now let's take a deeper look at some of the Vietnamese specialities which don't often agree with the Western palate. What comes to mind, Jules?
the fermented shrimp, that's terrible. That's terrible. They give you this shrimp sauce that smells foul and tastes just as bad as it smells.
Yeah, it's called mam dom, meaning shrimp paste, and pretty much everyone I've met who's a Westerner categorically says it's pretty vile, both from a kind of aroma and a tasting perspective. Taste and smell ultimately equal flavor, and in the case of mam dom, it doesn't work with the Western palate. However, you do get durian, which does smell pretty repulsive. However, some people do like it.
I like durian. Yeah. Very good. Yes. The king of fruits.
Yeah.
Also has the most fat and most cholesterol in it. So.
Yeah. And the most stinky. So you'll see signs up in hotels and stuff like "Don't bring durian in here," because it will just stink the place out. It is really that pungent. And yes, we've got durian, mam dom. There are chicken feet. You see these being grilled.
Rooster feet, really.
Rooster feet. Yeah.
Cock feet. Yeah.
You see these being grilled on roadside eatery stalls all the time. They're very popular, and I personally can't see the attraction to it. I've tried them and I can't get anything out of them apart from skin.
It's like flavorless gristle. It's like a wet jerky or something.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any salt in it. But they're rooster feet. They don't have a lot. Roosters, the meat of a rooster is typically for stewing, so they don't have a lot of use for these roosters. It's always the cheapest thing on the menu. It's like $6K for 6 rooster feet or something.
Yeah, and this is something you will see with Vietnamese cuisine, is they, in the West, will only eat the best cuts generally. The stuff we don't want goes into burgers or gets exported or whatever. But in Vietnamese culture, they eat, the A to Z of the animal, like nothing goes to waste. I even had a banh mi once with intestines in, an intestinal banh mi, if you could call it such a thing.
From a pig.
I don't know where it came from, but I knew I was eating guts basically, because the gristle and the chewiness, it was just, you just had to swallow it in chunks basically. You couldn't break it down in your mouth.
Yeah.
Not the most pleasant eating experience, but you've got to respect the fact that they do eat the offal.
Yeah, when you order a chicken, you get the entire chicken, with the head and the feet. Usually, they just chop up the midsection, and you put your chopsticks in and take what you want. The skin's on. They love the skin.
Yeah.
Right. And also the fish. You get the whole fish. And sometimes you'll see someone, get every little bit of meat from the head. They'll eat the eyes, the brain, everything.
I think the problem is that when they butcher all this meat, like all these shards of bone are all kind of all over the place. So you kind of pick up a piece with your chopsticks, and suddenly you've got this sharp bone in your mouth.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to. I used to spit out every single bone that my mouth would feel, but now sometimes you just eat the bone. Not a big deal. That's what your appendix is for, I think, right? To digest bones.
Pretty sure the pancreas secretes the enzymes required to, the proteases and things designed to break down these hard,
yes, Bill.
hard to digest foods. Kind of moving on, but still on the same theme of restaurants, politeness and friendliness. How does that change between the cultures? Now, in a restaurant setting, I've been to restaurants on plenty of occasions where I've just gone in by myself, and it's been quite a lively restaurant. There'll be a group of Vietnamese nearby, and they'll see the Westerner, and they'll come over. Maybe they don't have much, if any, English, but they'll invite you over for beers.
It's like free lesson.
Yeah, they do. They do really like to practice their English as well. And so, I've noticed that Vietnamese are very inviting in that sense.
Very friendly.
Sometimes it can be a little bit overbearing if you're like just walking down the street. I mean, Jules like to walk all the time. This is not really done in Vietnamese culture. They don't sort of walk long distances. They're always going on a bike. And when we're walking down the street, I don't know if this happens to you very often, but I'll often get hollered from the other side of the street by hello.
Yeah.
And I'll acknowledge them and sort of say hello, but when they're kind of like barking at you from the street, it's a little bit sort of puts you off a little bit.
Well, sometimes you can get confused. Someone will say hello, but really they're until they answer their phone, and you're like, no, not now.
Yeah.
You're like, whoops.
So the Vietnamese word to answer the phone is alo, and that comes from the French alo. And it's not the word they normally use to greet, which you probably know is xin chào. So
that's how Westerners answer the phone.
Yeah,
They're trying to be cute.
Exactly. They instantly know you're a Westerner if you answer the phone with xin chào, because no one answers the phone that way.
And also when you're walking down the street and like a Grab driver, which is a motorbike taxi basically, they think you need a ride. They're like, why would this guy be walking around at midday in the heat and the sun? You need to ride.
Yeah.
And they come up to you and they're like, come on, where are you going? Like, I want to walk.
Every time I walk to the gym, I'll probably two of those bikes that will pull up beside me, and they don't realise that we're walking because we want to walk.
Right. They think you're crazy.
I can understand why. It is a tropical climate. Vietnamese people are, quite cleanly people. They don't like to sweat, walk out under the hot sun. If they have to, they'll have the non-la, the conical straw hats.
Or an umbrella.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, sometimes they wear an umbrella. You hold an umbrella. Umbrellas were a lot more prevalent in Thailand, I found.
Yeah, and Myanmar, they're popular. Yeah.
Because it's only really, the straw hat is only really worn in Vietnam. That's, a very iconic piece of the Vietnamese culture.
And it's more of like a country, rice fields culture too.
Yeah.
And you see someone in the hat wearing it seriously, their parents probably, or they probably grew up on a farm.
Sure, yeah. So moving away from sort of friendliness, like kind of tied in with that, you've got this politeness aspect. And some politeness ideals that we would assume in the West do not exist here. One that comes to mind initially is if you walk out of an elevator, you expect to just be able to walk out, but in Vietnam that's not the case. The doors will open, and what will happen, Jules?
Tidal wave, Vietnamese, and you are swimming upstream, so to speak, trying to get out.
Exactly, yeah. You have to kind of thread your way out before the doors close, and quite often I wait for the doors to close because I'm not going to push through all you guys. I'm going to wait for the doors to close, and I'm going to pointedly press the button to open them again. Have a fairly kind of look of disapproval on my face, and then exit the elevator. I've never outright sort of said, do you realise that this is impolite? Because in their culture, it's not really considered impolite. And I think Westerners over here, although it might be annoying, you have to respect that different cultures have different standards of politeness.
Right.
A good example is like when you're having a meal with a Vietnamese family. Now it's polite for the young people, like the children and stuff, to serve the adults, to pick up the pieces and put them in their bowl. That's considered polite over here. That's something that doesn't exist in the West. So it's different.
Yeah, that's the opposite.
Yeah. exactly.
This is for you, and this is for me.
But there are some things that, when Vietnamese guys, especially when they like empty their face, sort of in the sink,
A farmer's blow.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or I've seen they do it on the street as well. Just like hold one nostril closed and then get it all out. That's pretty gross. To be honest. Vietnamese women, not so much. I'm really
No, they don't drink alcohol really. You don't see them smoking cigarettes. You don't see them drinking coffee really.
So let's talk about queuing as well. Now,
that's what it was. ATM.
In British culture, I don't know how much of it is the same in American culture, but the queue has to be respected.
Definitely.
If you try and cut in any kind of queue,
Personal space and respect for the line.
Exactly, yeah. And if you don't respect that, you will hear about it very quickly. It doesn't happen really that much over here. Yes, sometimes people get into lines, but very often people will just cut in front of you, especially at places like these roadside eateries or these gum dum places, like these rice eateries I go to a lot. I'll just be standing there sort of waiting for the person to serve me, someone will drive up on a bike, holler something at them, and they'll get served, or someone will walk right in front of me, a couple of inches away, and just bark a few things at them. So yeah, again, I just sort of patiently wait, and they normally kind of see that okay.
It's not a service-oriented economy, really. That's what it all adds up to. When you go back, when you go out to eat, the waiter comes to your table. They give you the menu, and they wait for you to order. They can wait for 10 minutes, but they want, as a Westerner, you see someone waiting, you hurry up, usually. They go, and then they bring things back piecemeal, and then they do not come back and ask you how everything is. They don't come back for, no reason. And then when they give you the check, they wait for you to pay the check. They don't say, here you go, whenever you're ready. They say, here you go. Then you get it, and when you get your change, you're expected to leave. They don't want you hanging out. That means you're done. Bye-bye.
When you're in a restaurant and then you go into the bathrooms, you'll notice a feature that's very different from Vietnamese and the West, and that is the all-famous bum gun. And you'll actually have this in any apartment you rent, most restaurants. But you won't have it in a Western restaurant typically, and you won't have it in things like big Western shopping malls, which actually really annoys me because it's such a superior form of getting clean after going number 2 compared to the West.
Thank you, Ben.
I don't know why the West hasn't adopted it.
Yeah, they're trying to be cool. These Western malls and restaurants and things oh, we don't do that. Lowly bum gun. No, please, we need it now.
Yeah.
It does take some getting used to. It took me 3 months before I got brave enough. I would only go to the bathroom at a Western hotel or something. But now, last on the list.
Yeah, and I actually get annoyed when I go to places and they don't have it, and just because it's just that much more convenient. The Japanese have got it right on both sides.
They figured everything out.
You don't need a bum gun in Japan. It's all automated, from underneath or whatever.
They take a laser impression of your backside. They know exactly where to go. You can adjust the pressure. You can get a soft spray, or you can get a razor spray. Then you have a dryer, hot dry, cool dry. Right, those things are amazing.
And also in the toilets, something that's quite funny is you'll quite often see a sign with a stick man squatting on the rim of the toilet, saying, usually in Vietnamese, sometimes translated into English, they're saying no squatting. Now, there's no point in translating that into English because no Westerner would ever try and attempt that kind of maneuver, but apparently it needs to be there because some Vietnamese people do. Why do they do that?
Because the old toilets used to just be a hole in the floor, right? And then they progressed and they had 2 places where you could put your feet. They had some grip there, but You rarely see that. Maybe in like a public train station or something that's 50 years old, you'll see that. But
Yeah.
not really anymore.
Not so much these days. I remember when I was working in a Thai public school, that's what they had. So and that's the first time I saw one. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And I saw these like bars on either side. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna grab these bars and, you know, start flexing the leg muscles and things. But yeah, I'd imagine if you're, you know, pretty old and you've got some dodgy joints and stuff, those places, that would be a nightmare.
They don't have dodgy joints, maybe. Maybe that's a Western problem.
Okay, let's talk a bit now about religion and festivals. Next week is Tet, or Tet, which is the main Vietnamese New Year, and it mirrors the Chinese New Year as well, based on the lunar calendar. So it changes each year depending on that. So this year is the year of the what, Jules?
Bull. It's my year.
Bull is
The
his
buffalo.
year. Yeah, I'm the year of the tiger. When I was born in 1986. So it'll go through these cycles of years, which obviously differs from the Western zodiac, where it's the month, or at least the 2 dates, you know, between the months that determine your star sign and your animal. Tet is essentially the big festival, the big annual festival, where often people will take like 2 weeks off, and you know everyone will return back to see their families. But big custom as part of that is the giving and receiving of lucky money, and you normally give this to friends and family in envelopes, and it symbolizes good luck for the coming year.
They have to be new bills too.
Do they? I didn't know. I
You
didn't
can't
know
give
that.
them crinkly old money.
Yeah, so
It'll be
make sure.
fresh.
Yeah, make sure you go to the ATM before you do this.
Some people go to the banks and like give me like 150s. You know?
Yeah.
Fresh. That's Tet. It's the birthday, the New Year, and basically Christmas all thrown into one.
Yeah, and they do have things like Christmas and Halloween and even Easter to an extent if you're Christian over here. And they do make quite a big deal out of Christmas. You see the decorations everywhere, and Christmas music will be blaring quite often. But there aren't any like public holidays. They do have a public holiday for Western New Year, the 1st of January. But yeah, that's about it. In terms of religion in the country, 15% self-identify as practicing Buddhists and 7% as Catholics. And you can see this when you look around. There are quite a lot of Buddhist temples, not nearly as many as Thailand. But what you will see here, which you won't see in a lot of Southeast Asia, are lots of churches. So Catholicism is quite a big thing.
Especially
Well,
in southern Vietnam, where
yeah.
we are, Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, where there was a bigger influence of the French when they colonized Vietnam. Quite a lot of Vietnamese, although they didn't self-identify as being Buddhist, they will still go to the temples if they happen to be near one. When someone dies, we'll still have monks come from the temple to do their rituals, their rites, their ceremony, things like that.
Yeah, if they were doing this in the West, we would call them Buddhists,
Yeah.
right? It'd
Yeah.
be like a Christian celebrating Christmas, getting married in a church, you know, having a priest come to the funeral. Are they Christians? I guess, but not really.
Yeah, they're not practicing in the sense
Right.
that they don't every week go to the temple and pray. But if we ever visit a temple sort of on holiday, like me and my girlfriend, she'll always go in, you know, she'll go down, she'll do her praying, where she, you know, they always wish for good luck in the coming year, those kind of things. And yeah, when someone dies, when family members dies, there's this ancestor worship thing which is tied in with Buddhism, whether or not you're an actual Buddhist or not, where you'll commemorate that day as a death day every year. So you have these.
The first year being the most important, I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know when they stopped doing those, maybe after 10 years or something.
Well, they don't get their own special day, I don't think. It's after a certain number of years, maybe it's 2 or 3 years, they're grouped together with all the relatives that are missing.